Yeah, good evening, and once again, welcome to our student-led research club initiative, which is termed SLRCI, an initiative to build the capacity of research clubs within Nigeria to be able to have a club that is sustainable and that meets the vision and mission of those clubs. Today, we are starting another module, which is the manuscript writing module. And for all our training, as we always done, we start all our teaching modules with ethics training because we believe ethics is the soul of research. A research done without ethics is a soulless research, and the outputs cannot be made use of because we all know what has happened in the past with people using persons as research subjects. And today's discussion, we have an expert, somebody who has been involved passionately in ethics over the years to share her wealth of knowledge with us. And this is quite important to us as research club because we are going to, as leaders of research club actually, we are going to be leading people in carry out research and training them how to do research. It is important for us as leaders to be equipped with all the necessary knowledge in terms of what is required ethically to carry out a research so that it can be a guidance to members of your club. And again, I think it's quite instructive that we are training you on this because there are many researchers that are involved in research but do not understand the basic uh, rudiment of ethics. I've seen senior person asking me that is it necessary to send requests for ethical approval for case report? Is it not just a case report? And you hear things like that. And if you are not equipped with this knowledge, you will not be able to address such questions when it arises within your club. So that's why we brought in somebody who is passionate about it and who has been doing it for years to come and share with you a wealth of knowledge. So I present to you Dr. Ogbetereyemian. You're welcome, ma.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Dr. Lawa. I want to use the opportunity to thank our mama and Professor Murenike. I think I saw her yes, on the call. Thank you very much, ma, for this opportunity, and I appreciate the great work that your team is doing and how much you're empowering people, knowledge about research, and I'm glad to be part of the move. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be here, and thank you everyone that is present for this particular training. Well, without much ado, I will not say so much, but I just say that I'm a medical doctor who is very passionate about research ethics and integrity in all its form. Yes, I am basically here, and that's the most I can say. And of course, my background, public health, and I'm also a lecturer at the Ambrose University. So it's nice to be here. So we'll just go straight to this. So I want to make a quick disclaimer here that most of the materials that you'll be seeing, some of the contents, actually, they are things, and what I'll be saying are my own take about, not necessarily affiliated to my organization, but and they're basically for educational purpose. So I'm trusting that at the end of the session, we should be able to understand what research misconduct is and be able to appreciate the factors that are responsible for research misconduct, and very importantly is how to prevent it and understand the various ways that we can promote research integrity. As we go to look at what research integrity is, we'll see the components, probably what you had as your training, as the training topic, it's embedded into research integrity. And we're going to see how we promote it because looking at the audience for this particular training, I'm expecting that by the end of this, because when you do a training, it's not just for the purpose of knowledge, but it's important that you're able to apply what you have learned. So I'm seeing that we become advocates for research ethics, we become advocates for responsible conduct of research at the end of this training. And we go to our various institutions to promote this. So we'll use the various I think before we start, it's important for us to understand what research is. Because why do I say this? Sometimes from the practical standpoint, you have people come to you and say, no, what I'm doing is really not a research. No, I'm just collecting data, that's not research. Research has to be, I write a proposal, I have to write this, it has to be these steps and all of that. But people actually conduct research without knowing it. And it's important for us to understand exactly what the term research is and what constitutes, because that's the baseline, that's the foundation, to understand what constitutes research. We'll see that for research is every activity, and I'm going to say it, that requires a rigorous process of collecting data, interaction with participants. Now, with the purpose, and please note, it's rigorous, it's scientific. So whatever process that you're doing that involves a rigorous exercise, a scientific inquiry into getting information. Now, for the purpose of contributing to an existing knowledge, or you want to add to what is already existing, or you're actually creating a new knowledge, then it means that what you're conducting a research. Now, let me give an example. You might be working in an organization or in a particular facility, and you want to actually assess, how do we do a particular process, a procedure. You go ahead, you distribute questionnaire, you have a proposal of what you want to do. Now, let me remove the word research proposal. So you have a proposal of what you want to do, and you go systematically in getting the data to assess how you do a particular process. And at the end of the day, you have an intent to actually contribute to knowledge. When we say intent to contribute, that means you want to publish what you're going to do. Then that means you're already conducting a research. You're interacting with participants. For example, in your hospitals where you train, and you ask people, how do you feel about this? What do you think about this? How do you go about this? In a scientific way. When I mean a scientific way, you have a study design, you have what's a laid down process of how you want to go about it scientifically. I put it to you that you're already conducting a research. Not necessarily that you're collecting just blood samples and all of that for a purpose of research. You're already conducting a research in the process. So it's important to understand this. And when we talk about research misconduct, we refer to actually serious breaches in research integrity. So when you talk about, I like to break the word research. So we've looked at one part of it, and the integrity part. It talks about your credibility. It talks about reliability. It talks about truthfulness. So when we talk about integrity in research, we are saying that everyone that will conduct research, it is expected that you are truthful about what you want to do, that you are truthful in disseminating the findings of your research. As we go ahead, we'll see the various things that aggregate to constitute what we call research misconduct. Of course, there's been several parts. Sometimes you might hear people say research integrity. You probably hear research, responsible conduct of research. For those of us who are very familiar with the CITI training, you know that there's a module for the CITI that speaks on responsible conduct of research. So that's also a module that deals with research integrity. So as it were, as it is now, we really do not have any universally accepted definition. But whichever way we're going to call it, research integrity, responsible conduct of research, we are speaking about the same thing. So we see that research misconduct involves, there are three things. We call it the trials. So sorry if you permit me, the Yoruba parlance, you say arometa, eh? So the arometas of research misconduct, there are three of them. So when we talk about research misconduct, we'll say these things are present. And what's that? We have fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, reviewing research, or even reporting the research results. So from this, you see that misconduct can take place across every stage of the research. Many times we probably just look at misconduct in how I report my results. No, not necessarily. You can actually have misconduct in the proposition for your research, in how you perform your research, in how the research is being reviewed, or even in the reporting of the findings of the research. So we're going to take them. We're still going to talk about them in detail as we go ahead. I hope I still have my audience. So I just to see that we are interacting. So I want you to just to show me that you're following me. Can you just in the chat box, just put the 3 trials, the trial for research misconduct in the chat box. So we are getting engaged, not just that I'm talking. I believe we are doing that. So we can just do that as we go ahead. So just drop it in the chat box. Oh, great, great. Olamide says fabrication, yes. Yes, Hanifa says fabrication, plagiarism, falsification, yeah. Great, great, great. Yes, so I'm happy we are following. Thank you so much for not leaving me behind. Yeah. So we go to fabrication. Now, what's fabrication? Fabrication entails making up your data or your results. And this we see very, very common. It's very common. If you ask, very, very common in research. So you have a situation where people do what? Fabricates the findings of their research. So you make up data. You know, sometimes I discover that researchers, at the point where they are submitting their proposals to conduct research, they already have something in mind. So all they are just trying to do is, I just need data to align with what I already think. And that's misconduct. So what happens is that by the time you're conducting that research, if you find anything not aligning, the tendency will be to force the data to align to what you're thinking. And that's already fabrication. So any process where you're making up data, now, like I said, not only in the dissemination of your results, but also in the proposition, during your proposal, you are making up what is not existing. And let me use a typical example. Sometimes you want to conduct a study because you're just interested in that study. Now, the fact remains is that that particular study has been overflowed. A lot of people have, and the fact is that when you're doing research, the purpose should be, what are you adding to the body of knowledge? If you are not adding anything, there's no reason. That's not research. Like we see a lot of people do a lot of KAP studies, KAP on this, KAP. You see several works, KAP, and you're looking at each of the studies, nothing new, just what exactly has been, but just saying the same thing, in same location, in same, what you now do. Oh, I did mine in Lagos, I'm doing mine in Enugu, and all of that's not research. So sometimes what we see is that to justify your research, you might want to fabricate. How do I fabricate? You begin to bring up issues like, oh, there's paucity of data. Who told you that there is paucity of data? How much have you researched into that particular topic? Why? Because you just want to justify why you must do that particular topic. That's already research misconduct during your proposal stage, in proposing your research. You see where fabrication can come. So not necessarily while you are computing your results or while you are disseminating. So it can also come during the proposition for your research. Then we have falsification. So falsification is about manipulating research materials, equipment, or processes, or intentionally omitting data. So we see that a lot in studies related to the laboratory. So you can have people falsify to get a particular trend. I used to use a particular, those who have probably, been part of my training, I used to use one particular video, but I'm able to share that. Maybe I can share the link with us through Dr. Kudus at the end of this particular training. You see where people falsify data. No, this is not looking. Sometimes you have, sometimes when you have your data, you just have one outlier that is just so out of it. So you just want to force it to align. And in the process, you manipulate, and yes, it's already, and you say, oh yes, I can now go ahead. You're falsifying. And that's research misconduct. Or you intentionally omit a particular data or a particular result. What it means is that what you get at the end of the day is not representative. Then we have plagiarism. Obviously, plagiarism is taking credit for what does not belong to you. You get an idea from somebody, probably part of the process you used from a particular research from somebody else, and you're not giving appropriate credit. That's stealing in research. You need to give credits. And when you fail to do that, that's plagiarism. So we'll see that across these various, you see them happening. You can have 1, you have 2, you have 3, or you have the entire 3 taking place through a particular research process. Now, this is different Because there are two things that look very, very much alike. So we have the research misconduct and you have the honest error. You know, there are things that you do unintentional. And that's what separates research misconduct from honest error. For research misconduct, it's usually intentional. Everyone that does, you know it, except you are deceiving yourself and you don't want to be truthful to yourself. At that point, you know that what I am doing is wrong. But in terms of honest error, actually unintentional. And that's one thin line between honest error and research misconduct. So there are three major criteria. I spoke about one already that makes a particular process, a research process, we'll say there's misconduct in this research. Like I said earlier, is that what it's intentional. So it's not just that I don't know it, it's done intentionally. And the fact also is that for it to be tagged research misconduct, it is a departure from acceptable practice. Let me give an example. If I'm analyzing a particular lab sample, the acceptable thing is that by the time I'm done with that, I should record the result as it is. So anything that makes me want to change the result from what it is, that's already a departure, a deviation from the acceptable practice. And the final thing is that it must be proven with evidence that this really is research misconduct. I'm not going to boast. There's been several history. Like they said, most of the things that we see today, they did not just start today. Some of them started years ago, years and years ago. So it's not just starting now. We've had several examples, even before the 20th century. We had Ptolemy in the 2nd century, where he talked about being accused of fabricating astronomical observation. Mendel, the popular one we know, even his Greek plan data, there were found to be some selective reporting in that particular data. Several other misconducts in the past. We've had cases of plagiarism, data manipulation, and that is what resulted in what we have today as the peer review. So we say, oh yes, you have actually conducted your research, but you must subject your research to peer review. And failure to do that, that's a misconduct. Then we have the part of it. We are now talking about publication ethics and all of that. We're going to look at a bit of that as we go ahead. And you see that because of some of these past scenarios of research misconduct, now you see the journals are beginning to stress that it's important. You know, how replicable is your finding? How transparent is your data? Can we replicate your finding? If you say you got it, if we subject ourselves through the same process that you said you carried your research through, can we get the same results? If we cannot get the same result, then there's a problem somewhere. What it means is that there must have been some form of research misconduct while conducting that particular research. We have several others, a lot of questionable practices, ghost authorship we're going to look at as we go ahead. Honorary authorship, which we see today, we just give people authorship, oh, you know, just this is one big professor and all of that. So it didn't just start today, it's been happening way before now. And several others as we go ahead. I'm not going to bore with it. We have the salami slicing, we have duplicate publication, ghostwriting, we also have image manipulation. So when you find it's not just about, we also have manipulation of image to suit what you want. You know, it's getting worse now day by day with the AI. So you have the AI can help you manipulate an image to what you think you want it to be and all of that. But then these are all forms of misconduct. No matter the technological advancement, misconduct is misconduct. And we have several tools, of course, that helps us to detect that. We have several plagiarism software, image forensics to actually check if this image was manipulated or it's just the way it is. We are all familiar. Please, if you after now, please go to the retraction watch. Just type it on your search engine, retraction watch. You'll see some very notable researches that have been retracted. You have them there. You know, it's also why I tell people to read this is that it cautions you. So when you see what has happened to others, you don't want to toe the same path. You don't want the same thing to happen to you. So that's one of the reasons why it's really important to also look at the retraction watch database. So we're going to go to the concept. I'm not going to bore us with it because I already talked about that. So we'll just take them one at a time and delve deep into it. So when we talk about falsification. It can come in different form. Now, whenever you are altering something, it could be a data, it could be a research process, in order to deceive. That's falsification. When you are misrepresenting the facts because you want to mislead people, that's also falsification. For plagiarism, because most times what comes to us is another person's work. I got an idea from somebody else's work, and I did not give credit to it, and that's plagiarism. But can I put to you that you also have what we call self-plagiarism? So you can also plagiarize yourself when you also do not give credit to yourself when you get a particular work. Of course, you might have a particular research project, and of course, you're getting some ideas from previous work that you, the researcher, have done. Of course, when you also do not give credit to yourself, what it means is that you're also doing what we call self-plagiarism. You have examples, a piece of written work or a research idea that somebody has copied and claimed as his or her own. So what it means is that whenever you do not give credit to a particular idea or work from another study, what it means is that you're already taking that work as yours, and that is research misconduct. Why are we bringing this to bear this evening? The fact remains that nobody might actually get to monitor you. What are you doing? How are you doing it? But there's something we call value ethics. So there are expectations. We expect that researchers should be truthful. So whatever it is that you're saying is nothing but the truth. We expect that you conduct research with the highest level of honesty, integrity. Nobody's going to watch you. Nobody will check if you're doing the right thing or not. But there's what we call self-leadership, and I want to speak about that, even as it relates to research misconduct. You must begin to do what we call self-leader. You need to lead yourself. Nobody's watching me, but what I'm about to do, is that the right thing to do? What I'm about to do, is that the right way to do it? So when you begin to do that to yourself, you discover it becomes difficult for you to fall prey to research misconduct. Because even though nobody's watching, you know that because if you look at it, ethics is about morals, principles, what is the set rule, what is in place. So you need to guide yourself. And the fact is that for you to be a renowned researcher, you must conduct research responsibly. When we say responsibly, you must conduct research with the highest level of integrity. If you don't learn it at this stage, it becomes a problem. When you get to the very top in research, imagine a very renowned professor with several publications to his or her account, and then suddenly the person is blacklisted. Why? Because of research misconduct. It's very shameful. It's what should not take place. So you don't want to get to that point for something like that to happen. So that's why from the very start, I tell many of my students, from the start, as a medical student conducting research, you must learn to conduct research responsibly. And when you do that, it becomes part and parcel of you. You don't even know, it occurs spontaneously. You know that, before I must do a research, I should get ethical approval. Or while I'm conducting, I must make sure that there's transparency in the way I conduct my research. Or I must make sure that I'm only documenting the things that I find. I must make sure that my data, I'm not manipulating my data in any form at all. And if for any reason I get any idea from any study, any researcher, I should be able to give them credit for it in my research work. So it becomes part and parcel of. That's why I want to say that you guys are privileged to have this particular training. We see very senior colleagues who are still, Dr. Kudu said something while he was there, that a particular person was asking him, do I need to get ethical approval? And you'll be shocked, a very, very senior person. And probably a person had several publications to his or her account, still asking such questions. You see, it talks about a problem with the foundation. And that's basically why this training is coming. You are laying the right foundation to conduct research responsibly. We have several examples of plagiarism. We have the citation plagiarism, and that's basically the one that when you just intentionally, negligently just fail to appropriate credit. So you want people to think, I'm the one. And that's what some people we all have citation amnesia. So sometimes while looking at the work of some of our students, and you see them actually make some statements, and you ask them, are you? The statement not referenced. When you make a particular statement in your work and it's not referenced, what it means is that you are the owner. So if I'm seeing a statement and I think this particular statement needs to be referenced, and you're saying, and I can't see that reference, what you are telling whoever is reading your work is that you own that work. Then sometimes you put it to them, say, oh, I forgot. There's nothing like forgetting. It's what we call citation amnesia. You just decide to disregard, and that's a form of research misconduct. We also have the issue of the bibliographic negligence. We also see this quite a lot, where you have several references and you have them in your work, but in your bibliography, we can't find them. In the body of your work, you have some particular articles that but when we are looking at the reference, we can't find them there. So that's what we call bibliographic negligence, and it's a form of misconduct. Like I talked about self-plagiarism. So we see that the violation of ethical standard regarding human and animal experiments, the standard that the human participant in an experiment must give informed consent, is research misconduct. So anything that violates the rights of any participants, remember that informed consent hinges on the principle of autonomy. But every individual is an autonomous agent. They should be able to give consent for whatever process, whatever activities that is going to take place with them. So when you violate this principle, that's already a form of research misconduct. And we actually must be very wary of this. We have several other forms of research misconduct. Non-publication of data. So let me say this very quickly. When I say it, some people laugh about it, but I'm going to say it here. You see that whenever you conduct research, the process is that at the end of the research, you should be able to do something with the findings of your research. You should be able to communicate. That's why when you come to ethics, they will ask you, okay, good, you have said you will conduct this research. So at the end of the research, what's your plan? And when we say, what's your plan? We want to hear, what's your dissemination plan? How do you intend to disseminate the findings of your research? Is it you want to disseminate it through scientific conferences? You want to disseminate through publications in journals? There should be a dissemination. So when you conduct your research and your research ends on the shelf of your institutions, which many undergraduates do. Oh, I just want to do this research. I need to just do 500 my research project and just do it and get my MBBS. Or I need to get my degree. No plan for publication. Note today that whenever you conduct research without publishing, that's a form of misconduct. Why do I say so? You have put your participant through the various stress. Sometimes we don't understand the stress that we put research participants through. For somebody to answer questions, a questionnaire of have several questions and taking them about 15 or 20 minutes of that, that's their time you're wasting. You mean you go through that entire process and at the end of the day, you do not publish that research work. That's misconduct already. Or when you suppress data, and you understand that you are seeing the data that is obvious, but because many of us researchers will go to conducting research with already the end in mind, then you suppress the data. You decide not to report. No, this data will spoil my findings. It will not allow my findings to align. And you decide to suppress that data. That's also research misconduct. So it comes in various forms. We also have several other questionable research practices. You might not always put them as we said, but we call them, they are very, very close to misconduct. Questionable research practices, and we see them also having their play at one point or the other in research misconduct. We have the salami slicing, and this is very common for the most postgraduate research, for masters, PhD, various dissertations. Now, they're usually very, very bogus research. Probably you have like 3 objectives, 4, 5, and all of that. Then you see people say, no, this work, how can I do this entire work? I'm taking from the practical standpoint. You're discussing with researchers and they're like, oh, this work, it's so big. You mean I will just do this work and I will just publish just one paper? No, now I should be able to get like 2, 3 papers from there. Now what happens? So that study is fragmented into various sections. So they just fragment, maybe they analyze by age. For this particular one, by sex, the same work. You are not adding anything to the body of knowledge. You're just fragmenting a work that would have been published as a whole and will make sense. I did a current a comic. I'm into comic for research ethics education and research ethics and integrity education. I could share that with you through Dr. Kudus on this particular topic of salami slicing. So you see them cut. So it's like you're using knife. Rather than leave your bread as a whole, you use the knife to cut the bread into several pieces. That's exactly what many researchers do with their research work. Rather than getting a whole meaningful research, you fragment them into little papers. Why? You want to increase your publication count. So when we are counting your publications, we say, oh, Salami et al. Has 20 publications. Or we say, Dr. Kudus et al. Has 10 publications. And those 10, out of the 10, 3 salami slicing from one work, another one salami slicing, you got 2 work, another like that. At the end of the day, you have so many research articles, but no meaning. You're not adding anything to this body of knowledge. So that's what happens. What's what happens? We have duplicate publication, the same work. And note, please, that when you publish a particular work in a journal, you're expected to publish elsewhere. If you do that, that's a form of misconduct. So we call them questionable research practices. They might not fall, what we call them questionable, they might not fall wholly into the falsification, fabrication, and plagiarism, but they are also forms of misconduct. Then we have the improper authorship. Then failure to disclose conflicts of interests. I'm very interested in this. If you are conducting a study and in any way you are conflicted, so either you're conflicted by the fact that although I'm part of this study, actually I'm being paid, maybe it's a clinical trial, the pharmaceutical company is paying me and all of that, and you're still part of that research, what is the tendency is that the tendency will be that you want to favor the company that is sponsoring you. Or for example, I'm a reviewer for a journal, and that journal was sent to me to review. And this particular research is being conducted by my wife. And I keep quiet about it, and I review the work as though I have no relationship with the researcher. That's already a questionable research practice. The ideal thing will be that when I receive that particular work to review, I immediately declare my conflict. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm unable to review this particular work because I'm conflicted. The particular researcher in question is my wife. And immediately that will be reassigned to somebody else. But what we see is that people intentionally, they keep quiet. Whenever you keep quiet about any form of conflict, what it means, that's a questionable research practice. You should declare your conflicts and make sure that you manage your conflict properly. For example, you might be conflicted. What it means is that, for example, let me give an instance. You are conflicted probably because you are being funded financially. So what it means is that you stay away from everything that has to do with the decision concerning that research. If you're a member of the ethics committee, for example, or you are a reviewer, you declare and you stay clear from it because you don't want anything that will make you want to influence the decision concerning that particular work. Then, of course, when you also have poor data management, not misconduct as it were, but we call it questionable research practice. You collect data and you are looking for your data. You don't know how you went with the data. That's poor. Or you store your data in an insecure form. You see sometimes, many times I see people, you go to people's offices, you see questionnaires on the table everywhere and all of that. That's data. That's people's private information that is out there. Everybody's looking at it. And sometimes you go see people go as far as their names. You now have the names of the individuals to them, they say they want to use it to know, I want to use it to be able to identify. You have broken the principle of privacy and confidentiality of the research participant. You see, these are not misconduct as it were falling under fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism, but they are already questionable research practices. So I'm not going to bore us with salami slicing. We're going to share this slide at the end. I already talked about it when you break or fragment your study. And the fact is that it is highly unacceptable. It's unacceptable. What it does is that when you do salami slicing, yes, your publication count will increase. Good, we are clapping for you. But it's not about I tell people that it's not about the number of your publication, but it's about the quality of your publication. So it's good that you have that at the back of your mind at the start and at this foundation of research. Don't go for just the numbers, go for the quality. So not just counting, I have this paper, Then we're looking at the paper, your paper is so watery, you're not adding anything. You're not contributing anything. You've just been added to the number of people that have conducted research. But what are you conducting? What are you adding to the body of knowledge? What are you adding to the society? Because at the end of the day, the essence that some of this research, we should be able to translate them into policies for implementation. What exactly will your research do? And if it's not doing that, you just wasted your time. I'm sorry to say so. Then we just, we'll go to say a bit about plagiarism. So like I said earlier, that plagiarism involves using someone else's idea or work without giving proper credit And the fact is that it violates the principles of ethics. Not attributing original source. Oh, I got this particular work from here, and I decide to keep quiet about it. That's plagiarism. We just have maybe a little exercise. Dr. Kudus. Dr. Kudus.
Yeah,
I have I need to know, like, how do we still have time to?
yeah, we have 10 minutes more so that we can take questions after.
Okay, all right. Okay, great. So I'm sure that many of us at different points, we've also had misconduct or you've witnessed some form of misconduct during publication. So I'll just say a quick thing about, misconduct during publication. So we have what we call deceptive authorship. Authorship, very important. Many of you, after now, you've done some research, you want to publish, then you have to list the lists of your authors. So you can have deceptive authorship where you have submission of papers with section lifted from another paper without acknowledgement. That's the misconduct during publication. Or you are resubmitting a previously published data, then you now do some tumbo and alter here, alter there, and you bring it and say, this is a new paper. That's already misconduct in your publication. Or lecturers submit papers with figures from students' dissertation without the student permission. I'm sure some students are saying, yes, ma, you are very correct. Exactly, yes. So even when a lecturer publishes work from students, you must get the student's permission to do so. So when you do that without the permission of the student, which happens in many of our institutions, that's already what misconduct during publication. Or you also do work from, you get your data from what a particular work from a student, and without citing that student, you probably, how will I cite my student? Your cite your student that student is an author. You should cite the student. Or you use a student's conduct, they have the right, if they meet the ICMJE criteria for authorship, to be authors for that particular one. So we have also different forms of deceptive authorship. We have authorship by authority. For example, the chief medical director for a particular work can say, yes, because I'm the head of the institution, I must be an author on this paper. But he or she, does she qualify to be an author? You have gift authorship, which we see. You gift author, this person was so good. When I was doing my promotion, the last promotion, he stood so well for me. This particular person was my mentor and all that. And the next thing, I want to publish this work. Let me just add his name or her name. Add my name, it's so common in our institution. Add my name, gift authorship. So that's also a problem and is a form of resettlement. We also have the political authorship. I'm seeking for a position. I need to add the name of, because I will need this professor's support for my next political career. I think I should add his name. Prof, can you send your details? I'm about to publish a work. Let me, you see that. So that's political authorship. Then you have ghost authorship. That's also another form of authorship. When we say ghost, something is missing. I am the author, the real author, but I'm not listed as an author. So that's ghost authorship. So both authors and co-authors have responsibilities. That's on my slide. You see it when you get the slide. So it's not even when you are an author, you have your responsibility. And by the criteria of ICMJE, please, after now, you're going to see it on the slide. There's what makes you. So even when somebody is telling you, why you need to know this. Please let me add your name as an author. You need to find out, do I meet the criteria to be an author? And if the answer is no, please, you need to quickly decline. I'm sorry. This is a beautiful work, but I'm sorry I can't be an author because I do not meet the criteria for authorship. You see, where we talk about self-leadership and self-regulation, everybody will think you are very stupid. You don't know what you're doing, but that's the right thing to do. You must meet the criteria for you to be an author. And what is that criteria? You must make substantive contribution. Contribution do not just mean I collected data. Substantive contribution to the design, the action of data analysis, and the interpretation for you to be an author. You must have a part of the article or in the revising of that article. Not just somebody design a particular article written up and say, let's add your name. But you're part of revising that article. So what if somebody is giving you, say, be an author? No, I want to be a part of it. I want to qualify. So for you to be an author, you must meet this criteria for you to be an author. So everyone that is listed as an author must meet and qualify for you to be an author. And there are several factors, that sponsors research misconduct. Some of them is the publish or perish culture in many of our institutions. It's either you publish or perish. And because of this, a lot of people want to just push out any paper. Let me just push out papers so that I can meet the next promotion and meet the criteria for the next promotion. But it's beyond the number count, the publication count. It's about the quality and what your work is contributing to the body of knowledge. We also see, of course, for career advancement. And while people are trying to meet the pressure of either publish or perish, you see that they do a lot of unethical shortcuts. We have things we call ethics shopping. So I look at this ethics committee. No, this ethics committee, they are too strict. Let me go to the next ethics committee. Because you know that when you go to that ethics committee, they probably will not review your work. They just stamp approved. Every protocol that comes is approved. No review, no comments, nothing. And so that's better for me. That's research misconduct. So these are some of the factors that sponsor research misconduct. And how do we actually how do we prevent this? What can we do? We need sufficient ethics education. Sufficient ethics education. That's why you have the CIT and you have a program like this. Because when you are well informed, the tendency for you to align yourself to the right thing is there. Just like the Bible will say that, say, my people perish for lack of knowledge. So some people are also perish because they don't have the right knowledge. But you are opportune today to get this. So you must, very important. So in our various journal clubs, our research club, we should promote it. You can have webinars, where at intervals you have education on ethics and on research integrity. You're just reinforcing the knowledge in your various institutions. Other also reasons why this flourish in many places is also because we have weak supervision. So we have many students doing works. They say, this is my supervisor, but the works are not public. That's why, for me, I always insist, it's not about the number, but fewer students that you can supervise properly. Because the moment you become a supervisor, there's a responsibility to guide your students through, to make sure that at every stage of research, they are doing what is the right thing. Then also because many of our institutions don't have policies. I keep saying, how many institutions have policies on conflicts of interest? How many institutions have policies on research misconduct? What happens to a person involved in research? How is it being handled? Just a very few institutions have that. And this is why it is thriving in many of our institutions. Another reason also is because many of our ethics committees are we are overburdened with reviewing protocols. We are not even able to supervise or monitor the protocols that are taking place in our various institutions. Before the day show, I want to end with this because I want to go into it's how, because I think that that's something that we stay with us and, will help us because of the group of people, particularly who are here for this particular training. It's how we can promote research integrity in our various institutions. One of them, like I said earlier, is ethics training. You should have regular ethics training, not a once in a while ethics training. We just have it now, then in the next 2 years. Regular ethics training. Open yourself to training opportunities. For example, the manuscript hub, have regular trainings. Avail yourself the opportunity to be part of it. So regular ethics training will help. Then also, we also need commitment to integrity. Commitment to maintaining integrity. Either as a student conducting research, you must commit. The commitment, you're not doing it before everybody. Like I said, self-leadership. You are telling yourself, I am committed to ensure integrity in every of my work. Whether through the research process, through the collection of my data, how I conduct my research, I'm committed to maintaining integrity. There are several best practices that can help us in our institution. You must have clear guidelines. So even as a research club, you should have guidelines. So you must have established guidelines on how to manage research misconduct, even among your group, among the students. And for our institution, it's also important that we promote transparency. Transparency. We need to be accountable. Accountability at every level. Every researcher should be accountable. So you're not just left to yourself, doing whatever you feel like. There must be a process of accountability established for researchers across our various institutions. And with regards to publication ethics, that's misconduct relating to publication, all the journals have their role. Remember, you already have the peer review, that's one. But they also have the role to ensure what? Research quality. So it's not just about publishing a work, we want to have so many issues for this particular month and all that. But we want to ensure that every research that is accepted for our journal have what we can see the scientific rigor. We want to maintain the highest standard. Not, oh, I want to publish this one because the particular author is my friend, or the author assisted me at this point. Let me just publish it so I work. Does it meet the standard? We also have peer, of course, like many of the journals will do, peer review is also a process of actually ensuring research misconduct, avoiding research misconduct, especially during publication. And journals must begin to serve as gatekeepers to control the kind of research that is thrown out. Because most times the research comes at the place of the publication, the journal's review, and the next thing it is published. And the moment the work is published, it has gone out there. Anybody has access to it. So the journals have a role to act as the gatekeeper to ensure that only quality works that have been tested with high scientific standards are published in their various journals. So I will end here. I think I have already, just to acknowledge everyone that is listed here. So some of the things that you see, some of them are products of some of the programs you see here, our institutions, some of my teachers from Center for Bioethics, and some trainings that we've had in the past. I acknowledge each and every one of them, of which their materials were used for this particular work. Thank you so much for listening. So I'll stop at this point.
Yeah, thank you very much for that elucidating lecture. I'm sure the participants have picked a couple of things from the lecture. One key thing that came out of the presentation is the fact that it's quite easy to fall into the trap of any of these misconducts if you are not particular and working hard to ensure that you do not fall into them. So, and she has highlighted all of them for you as individuals within the training and for your research club. We expect that when you go to your various research clubs, you serve as gatekeeper and ensure that members of your research club are not found wanting of any of these misconduct that she has identified. With that, I'll open the floor for questions and comments. You can unmute and speak or use the.
All right.
And
Good evening, sir.
good evening. That's Timothy.
Yeah, Timothy, sir.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay. So my name is Timothy Oguntoye, a student from Misconduct University, Sokoto. So I want to thank you, man, for this wonderful presentation. So I just have a couple of questions. So one, I want to confirm the level of AI usage that is acceptable um, for research, because I was conversing with someone of recent, and the person was telling me that some journals actually accept the use of AI writing to some extent, that they don't really look at if you use AI or not. They look at other things like um, your referencing and other things. So I want to ask if what's the level of AI acceptability? Then second one, I want to ask that is it possible that that one who already published work, probably any P3 or Q4 journals, then and in future you want to publish that work Q1 journal or a far better journal than where you already published. So I want to confirm this one. And thirdly, I want to confirm if it's acceptable um, research to have to extract from the data, probably some of the variables you collected data for. You haven't published, maybe the data you collected is a little bit big and actually extracted part of it to conduct your research. Can you still use part of that data, to write another paper? So thank you very much.
Okay. So, okay, the next person.
I think he has three. He has three. Maybe you take that first.
Okay. So I want to say that because it's becoming very trendy to talk about the responsible use of AI. Before now, traditionally, most people say, I don't use AI for, but the fact is that even the journal recognizes that. You said that's why when you also send in your work, you have a declaration on the journal. Those who are quite familiar with the public, you understand what I'm saying. So at somebody asks you, at what point did you use the AI? Did you use the AI in the draft? Did you use the AI? So you have sections that you need to tick while you're sending your work for publication. And the level of the use of it depends on the particular journal that you're sending your work to. But I always say that you are not, the fact that you have the artificial intelligence to support what you're doing, you should have your draft done by you. You probably want, when you have your, at some point in the research work, you probably need, oh, maybe a paraphrasing or a particular section, but you have that draft done by you, not AI. So that's why issues, you know, there are several policies that are coming up now about the responsible use of AI. So I still put it back that it depends on the particular journal where you're sending your work to. Now, the fact of you sent your work, you did your work published on one of the Q3, Q4 journals, and you want to move it to Q1. If you have published that work, you can't do anything with it again. If you do anything with it again, it's already constituting research misconduct. So once that work has been published in Q3 or Q4, it remains there. You can't do anything with it again. Now to the last one, about using a part. That goes back to what I said about salami slicing. If you are putting the parts of a work, and that particular half that you want to publish cannot stand on its own, please don't publish it. Publish it as a whole with the initial data. You can't just fragment and break a part. I want to use this particular data. But if you are publishing that data and that data cannot stand, you understand what I mean stand, you know it that even though I'm publishing it, it can't stand on its own. Please publish the entire work as one. There's no value in breaking that particular, fragmenting that particular work and publishing that particular work. Then if you notice that it can stand on its own, let me now put it here. So when you are writing up that work, you need to refer to the initial work. And there's a way that statement is put in your work, that this work is lying on a particular research. That is stated clearly. So that comes again to honesty and truthfulness in research. So that will be my answer to that particular question. I hope I addressed your question.
I think so. Honesty and transparency is key. Thank you very much. Before Anifa, I think I saw a hand raised earlier. Mbana, so sorry, apology if I did not pronounce your name rightly. Please, you can unmute and speak. Then Anifa after.
Good evening. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you so much, Ma, for this. This was actually a very insightful session. There are a lot of things that I did not know were classified as research misconduct. My question is with regard to, I think at some point you mentioned that doing, many of us, especially students, are doing a lot of KAP studies, and we are just doing it. It's not really contributing anything to the body of information. And then you also mentioned that just doing research and just dropping it without publishing it can also be classified as misconduct. But because we're trying to create, the part of what we want to achieve with the research club in my institution is to foster an environment where people can generate interest in research, in curiosity, in wanting to ask questions and find out the answers to those questions. But these are obstacles that we cannot overcome. There is limited time and resources to carry out full-fledged intentional research works. And this is a requirement to graduate in many institutions and many courses. So people just do it I know that this can be done better, but let's just do it quickly so that we can live here. We don't really have the time to drum up genuine interest in doing some very serious research work that would take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of guidance. So how do we get over this obstacle?
All right, thank you very much. So I also speak from the standpoint of a supervisor, which I am for many students. Now, many times you see that just typical of what you have just illustrated, why can't we just do the study and just get it done? And I tell my students, because many times, even when they get their research, people are asking them, which topic is this? What is this? This is your supervisor and all that. Because I believe that even as an undergraduate, you have some form of study that would not still cost you so much, that are still quality. So it all depends. It's about innovation and creativity. When you're talking about your research topic, it talks about it should be creative. Even some parts of some particular areas have not been touched. So all you need to do a lot of literature. And how do you get that? Identify gaps. There are probably that some areas, even around the KAP, please, my apologies for using the word KAP studies, because even there are some KAPs that have not been tapped yet in terms of knowledge. We don't even have the body of knowledge regarding those areas. So of course, you can do works in those areas. But what gets me angry is that you see the KAP of areas that have been overflowed, and we still have students doing that. But it should be novel in the topic for your research. That's the way it's able to control. So you even have some KPs that you've not had works, good works done in that area. You can't do that. And I always tell you that the fact that you're a student doesn't mean you should not do quality research. There are researches that you don't obviously need so much funding for that you can still conduct even as a student. Like you have your research clubs. Oh, yes, you can do that, but you can do some case, you have some case reports. Those are also forms of research that you can do. So what you must have it, I need you to have it at the back of your mind that it's either quality or nothing less. So quality do not necessarily mean that the funding has to be great. Oh, your budget must be large. No, there are some simple studies that you can do that are also quality study. What's the quality? The quality is in the process by which you conduct that research. The process by which you are transparent and honest in the conduct of your research. That's the quality. The process by which you ensure that only what you see, what you got, the data you see is what you report. That's quality. So it's not necessarily in the volume of the funding for the work. I hope I addressed your question well.
Yes, I'm sure you addressed that question well. We have just 3 minutes and we still have one hand up. So we'll take Anifa as the last question. Anifa, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Ma, for the session. I think I should just go straight to the point. I had some things I wanted to add to the former question, but I think I'll just go ahead with mine. So, where we're talking about plagiarism, you mentioned self-plagiarism. Could you please give us more explanation as to what that means? And secondly, where you told us about criteria for authorship, does regarding undergraduate research right now and our research club, the way it's structured, we have mentors who supervise our works. So is it like by default our mentors do they qualify to be authors in our research just by mentoring us? I don't know if that's part of a criteria somewhere. Yeah, those are my 2 questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hanifa. So let me just go straight to the self-plagiarism. So self-plagiarism is your work, you're recycling about your work, you're using your own work without also referencing the source. So what I mean is that you probably have done a work, published, and you're doing another work. Now you're referencing that part. You're now using ideas from that work without referencing. Remember that work is not somebody else's work, it's your work. So that's a form of self-plagiarism. So that's what I mean by self-plagiarism. Now, for the issue about your supervisors, your mentors, being author, please, I stand to be corrected and I say it again and again. For you to qualify as an author, you must meet the criteria. And what's the criteria? That you must have made substantive contribution. If you are my supervisor and you have not made substantive contribution, you have some cases where students are supervising themselves. I am speaking from what I see. So you have students assigned to a supervisor, but the students are working on auto mode. Chapter 1, they have moved from chapter 1 to chapter 2 to chapter 3. They have collected, and I don't know if they bring the work. As a supervisor, if you have not made meaningful contribution to that particular work, you do not qualify as an author. But then we see what happens in an institution, and I'm aware of it, even though you might not be able to say it. That some of the supervisors now use what we call authorship by authority. I'm your supervisor, I'm your mentor, so I must be listed as an author. That's wrong. So whichever supervisor is doing that, that is gross misconduct. If you don't qualify by the criteria, which we have already said, making substantive contribution to that research work, you don't qualify as a mentor, even though you are the mentor. So what it means, the onus lies on the mentors and the supervisor to ensure that they do their work properly, that they ensure that they go through the work of these students, that they ensure that they make significant contribution to the research project, then they qualify as an author. You might fall into a position right now as a student where you might not be able to do much. Then you do. We've even had, talked about it, where even supervisors and mentors, they actually publish the work of their mentees without acknowledging them, without even listing them as authors when they really do qualify as an author. Those are all research misconduct. But then we are guided by morals. We are guided by the values. What should be? There's no law saying that it has to be this and you are punishable by the law. But then we are guided by morals and by the right values that is expected of a researcher. So that will be my answer to your question. I don't know if I answered all your questions.
Yes, ma, you
Yeah.
did. Thank you very much, ma.
Yes, I want to plead with us to give us just 3 or 4 minutes extra. I know we are past the hour by 1 minute. I'm sure we can't speak of ethics and ethics in research and having Prof on the call without hearing our voice on it on the discourse.
Yes.
Just one
I've been waiting
ma,
to hear.
especially as it relates to leaders in their various research clubs. Thank you, ma.
Thank you. Thanks for the honor. I want to congratulate, first of all, Aminu Yahaya, who presented during the virtual conference. I hope that experience is impactful for you. I actually want to thank Dr. Gutierrez. I heard the sound in your voice that you were tired. The same with Kudus. While you were here, I can only pray for every one of you then. You would see the results of this investment and your joy will be full. Thank you for the huge sacrifice. For every one of you, I don't think, it's nice hearing this, but like Dr. Guterres noted, you must just choose to be ethical. You can give excuses. You can say your supervisor threatened you. You can give excuses for stealing, for lying. You can be proud of yourself for choosing to stand despite all odds. And this is what we're talking about in research. But the irony is that people know people. People read and understand you, and they don't say it, but they know who has integrity and who doesn't have integrity. It will always spill. You can't hide unethical practices. Please note that sitting down and collecting a data of 50% and multiplying it by 4 because your sample size is 200 is fabrication. And that's very common. We see many people, it's a very common thing with students. They do 20 multiplied by 5. That's fabrication. It's not truth. I'm tired, but just to answer 1 or 2 questions. Somebody asked about how many AI content is there. And I laughed because I would ask you how many times should you use a calculator for you to say your mathematical result is valid. Ce n'est pas possible. You can't calculate that. What you can calculate and truthfully say is ethical use of your tools. AI is a tool, it's not your brain. If you now use it as your brain and forcefully project it as a tool, then you're part of the unethical practices. One of the most brilliant things I learned today was the Sandry technique by Dr. Oluwani. Think first. Think first. Use your tool to strengthen what you have. You must then read after. And I think one of the participants said something powerful, that if you're engaging for humans, then you must be human. It's not about machine engaging with humans to engage. That was also powerful for me. So learn about that. Finally, I'll lift the word. Ethics is just evolving in the country. While many people still might be caught about it, what we have done in Manuscript Up, and thank you once again, Dr. Guterres, is to invest that time on early career researchers who are going to be the future. If you guys know the truth, once you become researchers, anywhere you go, you know it, and that is the future. Many older people don't know it. They're not outrightly doing wrong because they want to do wrong. They don't do it. They don't have these opportunities you have. They wish they could have had it, but they have worked a career where they have lived a life of research misconduct, not purposefully for multiple. Many people also learn by example. This is what their seniors have done. And I was telling my friend, Dr. Olashiko, that once you have a bad senior, the product is 100 times that person. If you have a good senior, the product is 100 times. It's not a false stock. It is the principle of life. So if you've had seniors that don't know what research misconduct is when they're publishing paper for just paper sake, and they say, it's 0.5, change it, Joy, it doesn't matter because it truly doesn't matter to them. They are looking for numbers of manuscripts, not doing work to impact people. That's how they would do. But you have known the truth. Just I'm not apologizing, but just to let you know my bias. I'm a Christian, and in my Bible it says you've known the truth. The truth has set you free. It is now on you to spread the gospel and spread it through the research club. Once again, I won't take your time. I want to thank Dr. Witeri. I truly want to thank you. I knew you came here tired, but this is the sacrifices you see people make for the investments they want to see for the future. I'm very grateful. I truly, from the depth of my heart, wanted to say that. And I couldn't even imagine that we'll be here again. And then tomorrow morning, we're here again. Please let's have a June break and just let's rest. God bless you, everybody. Thanks for the honor and thanks for giving me time, enabling me to stretch your hours by 6 minutes. And once again, I congratulate Aminu Yahaya. He was the first person to speak at the whole conference abstract session. And I want to congratulate you for doing well. Thank you, everybody. And over. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We definitely will have a June break. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sound, for sharing the guideline for authorship. I don't know if Dr. Sound want to say a word. I know we are far past our time. Otherwise, Dr. Sound? Okay.
No, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. Do have a lovely weekend and join us on the call tomorrow. I think tomorrow we're going to be discussing AI in the manuscript writing early career researchers training. I'm going to be sharing the YouTube link shortly. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Bye. Good night, everyone.